Hello, my creative friend. If you like aligning with lunar energy to tend to your soul, practice magic, or do some emotional healing, you might enjoy art journaling with the moon alongside me this week. The waxing crescent phase, all the way to the gibbous moon on Sunday. So we're nearing that full moon, which will happen next week. But this is a week where, the power is building. So symbolically, spiritually, energetically, you can think about what it's like when you're trying to create a change in your life and the energy and the momentum that you need in order to make that happen. I'm actually going to invite us to work through a lot of our challenging emotions because it's helpful when you're art to really release and let go some of what might be standing in the way of your new moon intentions becoming a reality. But it's also a week where you might just be experiencing a lot of overwhelming feelings. There's been a lot of climate change, and here in Canada, there's been so many wildfires, and with that has come so much grief, so much rage, so many big things, big feelings and emotions that I can't hold in my body. It's too much for one person to hold. But it is helpful. It's not an answer. It's not a solution. It's not going to change things for us, but it does help me when I just take a moment to work through a process a little bit lighter and as if I'm not having to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, because it's difficult to move forward with all of those emotions. Plus, how can we move into action when we're overwhelmed? So if you are experiencing some of those emotions this week, you might also want to take some time just to follow along the prompts this week. You can see the prompts in this video. I'm going to go through that. And then I'm going with more detail, and then I'm going to go into the prompts for each day. And then after that, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth when it has to do with the sign of Virgo and where that lands on your birth chart, because two big things are happening in that part of your chart this week. And Mercury is stationing retrograde in the sign of Virgo. So whatever area of your life that Virgo tends to, focus its energy, the moon is going to be drawing down that energy every time it has a relationship with Mercury in the next month or is in Virgo, and the moon reflects that energy. It's also going to be reflecting what's happening in that part of your birth chart. So you'll want to pay attention to that part of the video if you want to dive deeper and get into working with that lunar energy on a more personal level. Okay, my friends. So the moon this week is growing in energy as I described. We're working towards that full moon. So it's going to building towards that peak. And this week the moon is moving through Libra and Capricorn. So it's going from Libra to Scorpio to Sagittarius and Capricorn. And that means it's going to be going through different astrological houses in your birth chart. And I'll go through that a little bit later in the video. Mercury stations retrograde in the sign of Virgo this week as well. The sun moves into the sign of Virgo. So I'm going to, like I mentioned, go through what that means for you personally according to your birth chart. On Monday, we're in the waxing crescent phase and the moon moves into the sign of Scorpio. So it's a good day to visually and creatively express, process, or navigate your difficult or challenging emotions, because Scorpio has that ability to create a shell so that we can feel safe to express or feel those things that are difficult to be with, those emotions that are difficult to be with. So find a safe space to be vulnerable and address the pain brought about to you by our changing world. So you might have some overwhelming emotions that it might be helpful to process or move through as you're art journaling with the moon. So draw, paint, or collage an image that represents the emotions that surface when you're met with climate change. So for me this week, I know I've been moving through a lot of overwhelming emotions that have to do with the wildfires that have been going on. There's been a lot of worry that I've had for the people that I care about that are affected, and also so many emotions around climate change and just the loss and the grief and the rage. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm sure you also experience it as a lot. So I know it's not a solution and it's not an answer, but it is helpful just to express how you feel so that you can move some of it through your system. On Tuesday, we're in the waxing crescent phase still, and the moon is still in Scorpio. And the moon is also having an opposing relationship with Jupiter. It's a good day to be aware of your emotional wounds. Jupiter's expanding energy can really expand challenging emotions as well. As soon as that emotional discomfort is felt, sometimes we go into behaviors where we're trying to tune out that discomfort or ignore it. And sometimes that means we're falling into unhelpful patterns and habits or addictions. So instead of moving to in that direction, let's try just being with our challenging emotions. So draw, paint, or collage an image that represents a challenging emotion transforming into something else. So imagine if you are dealing with shame, what that might be like if it shifts and moves and transforms into something else. And let your imagination go where it wants to with that idea. On Wednesday, the waxing crescent is in Scorpio still. The moon is in a relationship though with five other planets. It's a busy moon day. So there's a relationship that it's having that's with Jupiter, which is a trine, so a harmonious relationship, which brings positive growth. It's also having a harmonious relationship with Neptune, and Neptune is like that dreamy kind of planet. So it's like can be saying trust your intuition, trust what you're feeling, trust your nudges. The relationship it's having with Mars can actually help you act on those intuitive nudges that you get. And then the relationship it's having with Mercury can help you communicate or express your feelings and emotions, or even communicate your intuitive nudges. Mercury is retrograde, I believe, at this time. Or it might be the next day. I can't remember, but so there might be some, fogginess with the communication and depending how it affects you personally. And with the planet Uranus, because of that relationship the moon is having, it might bring some surprises or some unexpected events. Sometimes those are really great surprises, sometimes they're challenging ones. Either way, it's a good day, I think, for pushing towards pursuing your dreams or experiencing a boost in confidence, expressing yourself, but also a reminder, of course, to expect the unexpected. And of course, all the emotions that come along with that. So, in your art journal, draw, paint, or collage an image that represents the things in your life that are shifting and changing. Because all of us are experiencing so many shifts and so many change, and oftentimes more quickly than we can actually process or be with. So, anytime we can develop a regular practice like this, where we're just sitting with the moon and allowing ourselves to just be with what's happening and aligning with that bigger, more supportive energy that the cosmos can actually help us with, including with our nervous system, because we can co regulate with those rhythms in nature. And co regulating with the moon is a thing. I have experienced it and it works. So you might want to try that on Wednesday. On Thursday, the moon is in the first quarter phase and it's in the sign of Sagittarius. So it's a good day to make sure you're taking actions and making decisions from your spirit and your inner wisdom rather than listening to your insecurities or doubts. I really tend to see that first quarter moon as, a place where we're thinking about our choices and our decisions. What choices can you make this week to help your new moon intentions become a reality in your life? In your art journal, try drawing, painting, or collaging an image that represents a choice you're going to vow to yourself to make in order to help your new moon intentions become a reality, because they do require you to actually take action as well. On Friday, the first quarter moon is in Sagittarius, and it's a good day to delve into the world of possibilities because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. It has that like expansive, growing energy as well. So I would consider drawing, painting, or collaging an image of the various paths of possibilities. So you're just letting yourself play with your imagination and be in that realm where you don't really know, but you're thinking forward and you're imagining what each path might allow you to experience in your life. It could be as grand as like, I'm going to think about what the path of running my own farm looks like, or it can be simple, like I'm going to think about the path of learning a new language or learning a new skill. Let your imagination roam free and remember the goal isn't to commit to every path, but you're just exploring possibilities. On Saturday, the first quarter moon moves into Capricorn. It's a good day to understand the balance between ambition and well being. It's a time to reflect on the power of knowing when to push forward and when to pause, because that Capricorn energy is really those mature parts within ourselves. I often think of it as like symbolically like the inner crone or connecting with the energy of Hecate. It's the part of us that knows. that we have limitations, that there are time boundaries, that it's important to plan ahead. So it's a time to reflect on the power of knowing when to push forward and when to pause, or of recognizing that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to honor your limitations. So draw, paint, or collage an image in your art journal that represents the limitations you resist, and then on the opposite page, create an image that represents the gifts or freedoms that those same limitations offer you. I know for me, as a highly sensitive being that also deals with a chronic illness, and my mast cells, they go haywire. And so they have limited me so much in the last few years, and I was extremely resentful and had so many emotions to move through. But then I also got to this place of recognizing, wow, my entire life, there's so many ways it changed for the better because of those limitations. So you might just want to explore that dance between the joy of having them and the anger and the frustration of having them. On Sunday, the moon is in the gibbous phase, and the moon isn't quite at its full power, but it's almost there. So it's a good day to reflect on what needs to be adjusted or refined. It also is a good day to just think about, okay, what does your almost complete look like? Like, how do you feel when you're close to completing something, but you're not quite there yet? Do you get impatient in that phase of the creation process? Do you have acceptance around that? Does it feel a little bit like it's too much energy when it's like almost there? So just create an image that represents the space between idea and manifestation. I want to talk now a little bit about that Virgo part of your birth chart. So I often suggest in these videos that you print out your birth chart in the whole sign system. I follow ancient or Hellenistic astrology, and so the whole sign system is a little different than the other house systems. And when you're working with that birth chart, you might want to put it at the beginning of your art journal or somewhere in your art journal so that you can refer to it, because it will show you all the astrological houses and the sign that is in each house. So you'll see here that there are 12 astrological houses. And this is from I printed this particular birth chart on astro.com. So it shows the signs on the outer edges of the chart. And then that first house is your rising sign. So you'll want to pay attention to that first house because it helps you to know what sign is in every other house. So this is just a chart showing you all the areas of your life those particular houses are in charge of. So for instance, the sixth house being in charge of your health, those things that drain your energy, your vitality, your daily routines, and your, relationship with details and order, and also your relationship with your pets. So each house is kind of in control of different areas of your life. And wherever Virgo lands on your birth chart, it's going to flavor that astrological house with the Virgo energy, which means that you're going to approach those areas of your life in a Virgo kind of way. So you want to look at, okay, which areas of my life am I approaching with this Virgo energy? So these areas of your life is going to be where you tend to be more adaptable and grounded. It's also going to be areas in your life where you'll tend to be more stable or desire more stability. You'll want calm and quiet, most likely, in those areas of your life. You'll dislike change. You'll want and be attracted to the higher quality things. You might also be concerned about the material things like money or your body or time, and how to manage. You'll like want to manage those things because Virgo energy likes, bringing order to things. It's also where you'll tend to be adaptable and flexible, and where you'll have a lot of things going on. And it's also where you'll become what the situation needs you to be. So you'll try to adapt yourself to whatever the situation is, most likely in those areas of your life. Wherever Virgo is in your chart and the areas of your life that it rules, that's also where you're going to extract something good and make something useful out of it. So even if it has difficult challenges in those areas of your life, you'll probably tend to take those difficult challenges and turn them into something that's useful for you. It's also where you'll want order, and it's also where you'll do what is necessary. You'll work your craft and develop your skills in that area of your life. It's also where you'll want to feel useful, and it's also where you're going to want it to run like a well-oiled machine. And I know for me, Virgo is in the house of my home and living situation, and that is definitely true. I like things to in my home to just run like a well-oiled machine so that I can relax. And when there's order in my home, it helps me to relax. This is also the space where you're going to be more self-sufficient, and it's also the space where you're going to desire to be of service. And I think that one is actually so interesting because I'm actually do all of my service work from my home. These areas of your life will also be where you want to be healthy and where you'll need to work on your physical and your mental well-being. It's also where you'll want to create useful things, where you'll dislike chaos and disorder, where you'll seek perfection, and where you'll build up stress if you don't have the ability or the capacity to process your emotions. It's also where you'll tend to be more analytical and discriminate. And it's also where you'll manage and classify information and put it to use, or potentially you'll get lost in the details of things in in those areas of your life. It's also where you feel valuable when you're being useful. And it also might be where you struggle to see the bigger picture. So, that Virgo part of your life, why I'm highlighting that is because there's two really big things happening this week in that area. So, I'm going to go through that by your rising sign. So, if your rising sign is Aries, you'll see that the moon is moving through your seventh to your 10th house. And that Virgo is in your sixth house. So, because the moon is moving into the sign of Virgo, I mean, sorry, the sun is moving into the sign of Virgo. The moon already moved through it, but it's the sun that's coming in because we're in Virgo season. And that sun brings action, vitality, energy, confidence, passion, purpose, and the support to create change when it comes to your health, your daily routines, your daily work tasks, or your relationship with your pets. That's for Aries rising sign people. This is also where Mercury is stationing retrograde, which could throw some kinks in your daily routines because that's the house of your daily routines. So you might just want to consider that if you have your rising sign in Aries. If your rising sign is Taurus, the moon is moving through your sixth to your ninth house, but that Virgo is going to be in your fifth house. So that sun is really bringing the energy, the vitality, and the confidence when it comes to your relationship with your children, or your hobbies, or your sex life, or your relationship with pleasure, or the creative projects that you're working on. So you're getting a lot of good sun energy to like take action and maybe connect with your purpose and passion around these topics. But Mercury retrograde is happening there. So it invites you to be playfully creative because that fifth house has a lot to do with your creativity. So during that Mercury retrograde where things slow down and it's a period of reflection and refinement, you might just want to spend some time being playfully creative so that you can really gather what it is that you're needing to revisit or see anew from a new perspective. If your rising sign is Gemini, then the moon is moving through your fifth to your eighth house, and Virgo is going to be in your fourth house. So, all that Virgo energy and all that wonderful sun energy is happening in the house when it comes to your parents, your childhood, your inner child, your ancestors, and your home or living situation. So, with those topics, you're getting a little bit of vitality, some confidence, passion, some purpose, and some support to create some change with that sun energy. The Mercury stationing retrograde invites you to make sure you are on the course you intended, and it's inviting you to resolve inner conflicts. So, if you have some inner child stuff that comes up this month, if you have some like the month ahead, even if you have some stuff with your parents or your past, or your relationship with your ancestors and your home and living situation. So you might just want to make sure that you're tending to those so they're not building up. If your rising sign is in Cancer, the moon is moving through your fourth to your seventh house, and Virgo is in your third house. So the sun is bringing that action, that vitality, that energy, that purpose, and the support to create change when it comes to the way you learn, or what you're teaching, or how you're communicating, or your relationship with your siblings and peers. And it's also the house of the goddess or earth based rituals. So, even moon rituals as well, and connection with the moon. So you might want to consider those areas of your life and think, okay, the sun's here to create some change. So what change might I want to create? Mercury retrograde is saying be aware of miscommunication, especially with peers, neighbors, or siblings. Because I'm not an astrologer, just so I want you to notice, and you'll see this on all of the slides, when it comes to Mercury retrograde, I was looking at, and this is the particular source I was using, because it was basing it on the houses. And I really wanted to get that information for the houses because I know the moon, although I'm not an astrologer, I really like finding out what's happening with the moon because that's what I'm always focusing on when I'm art journaling with the moon. So that's my personal spiritual practice. And so I'm always interested in figuring out, okay, so if the moon's having a relationship with Mercury, I want to understand what that means. In that sign, if your rising sign is Leo, the moon is moving through your third to your sixth house, and Virgo is in your second house. So if the sun's bringing that opportunity for change when it comes to money, income, assets, or your livelihood. But Mercury retrograde is there as well. So it's inviting you to plan for the future when it comes to your money. So take a little bit of time to think and consider what might planning for my future look like when it comes to my financial life. If your rising sign is Virgo, the moon is moving through the second to your fifth house this week, and Virgo is in your first house. So the sun is bringing that action, that vitality, and that support to create change when it comes to your body, your appearance, the way you present yourself, your identity. So if you're an entrepreneur, you might also be thinking of that in terms of your brand. What might I need and want to refine or change when it comes to my brand? Mercury retrograde is inviting you to refine or redefine how you present yourself to others, whether that's personally or professionally. If your rising sign is Libra, the moon is moving through your first to your fourth house, and Virgo is in your 12th house. The sun is bringing that action, that vitality, and that energy, and the support to create change when it comes to your subconscious realm and those things that you hide from yourself and those things that you hide from others. So it'd be a really great month. Virgo season for you, if you're Libra rising sign, would be a great month to do some mapping or do any kind of work that you do for the subconscious realm to do some rewiring of your brain. Mercury retrograde is happening in there as well, though. So it means that things are being restructured for you behind the scenes. So even if you're not actively doing the work, although personally I would like really get on that bandwagon and do it consciously as well. But even if you don't, you're going to see that a lot is kind of being restructured in your subconscious realm for you. And it's also a good time to just trust your hunches because so much is happening in that subconscious realm. If your rising sign is Scorpio, the moon is moving through your ninth to your 12th house this week. And Virgo, so this is a typo here because there's every week there's a typo. It should be a game. But the Virgo is moving into is in your 10th house. Um, and so actually, I'm wondering here if I actually even type. Yeah, I type that was my typo because it's your 11th house. So the information here is correct, but I just forgot to do this one line. There you go. So ignore this, but it's in your 11th house, you'll see here. And that's the house of friendships, community, groups, and your hopes and wishes. So with the sun bringing change there, you might want to consider, okay, what do I need to see? about those areas of my life? Or is there something that I need to keep in balance when it comes to like accomplishing my goals, but also having community or reaching out for support or connecting with groups around that as well? Mercury retrograde is in that same house. So it's inviting you to make sure you're not spending too much time on your goals and then not enough time with your friends and community. So, again, bringing some balance or considering how to bring some balance in those areas of your life. If your rising sign is Sagittarius, the moon is moving through your 11th to your second house this week, and Virgo is in your 10th house. So the sun is bringing that action, that vitality, that confidence, and it's supporting you to create change when it comes to your career, your reputation, or your ideas of success. So if there's any changes you want to make there, now's a good time. It's also a good time to like shine your light because the sun likes to bring that confidence. But with Mercury retrograde there too, it's actually asking, okay, let's pause and think about the changes I want to make. Maybe not necessarily make them right now, but reflect and ponder and redefine, especially your reputation or your ideas of success. Are you going where you want to go in your career? That would be kind of what I would sit with this month every time the moon is drawing down that Mercury retrograde energy. If your rising sign is Capricorn, the moon is moving through your 10th to your 12th house, and that Virgo is in your ninth house. So the sun moving into Virgo really brings that passion, purpose, confidence, and the support to create change when it comes to your faith, your spiritual practices, international travel, or your ideas of future success. It's also the area of publishing. So if you have any publishing dreams, this might be a good month to think about those and consider and reflect and refine and redefine what they mean to you. Mercury retrograde invites you to pay attention to the smaller details that support your larger purpose. So it's a time to just kind of put the brakes on, maybe not make any big decisions just yet when it comes to your future success, but just consider, okay, what details have I been ignoring that I need to really take care of moving forward? Aquarius, if your rising sign is Aquarius, the moon is moving through your ninth to your 11th house, and Virgo is in your eighth house. So the sun is bringing that action, that vitality, that confidence, that passion, that purpose, and the support to create change when it comes to your feelings and thoughts around death, your psyche, your emotional and mental well-being, or any debt you've accumulated. It's also the house of shared money, so you might want to consider that area as well. Mercury retrograde invites you to look at how you are managing your debt because that Mercury retrograde is like that review time, right? So how am I managing my debt and am I overextending myself? Finally, if your rising sign is Pisces, the moon is moving through your fifth to your eighth house. And Virgo is going to be in your seventh house. So another typo here, ignore this line um, because that Virgo energy, as you'll see, is in your seventh house. So the sun is bringing action and vitality and energy and passion and purpose and supporting you to create change when it comes to your close, intimate relationships, your marriage, or your partnerships, any really important partnerships. Mercury retrograde is also inviting you to check your assumptions when it comes to relationships and like make sure you're managing small issues this in the month ahead in relationships so that they don't grow bigger over time. So I hope you enjoyed that highlight and we'll see you next week.